media and ooh, I just got that notification.
Apologies.
It was good. Now you were aware. So, relationships are everything. It takes time to build a career and to get to the positions that you're in today. It takes a lot of work, but there's some things you can do to get the ball rolling so you can look fabulous online. The other big thing I want to remind you is that when someone is hiring you for an opportunity or position or a speaking engagement or whatever that might look like, they're going to try to vet you. You've probably been asked for references in your past. They want to know, are you good at what you do? Are you awesome? Are you good at everything that you say you are? They do. I know everybody in here, I'm sure there's people who've been references and who've asked for other people to be their references. It's a common thing. But the real reality is that they're going to look for stuff to vet you. So where are they going to look? They're 100% going to look online. They're going to look at maybe your personal Facebook, your LinkedIn, maybe you have a Twitter, an Instagram, or you're like me and you have an embarrassing TikTok account. They're going to look and they're going to try to find you and figure out who you are. If what you have on there doesn't make you look good, or even more so look good at what you do for a living, then you've missed an entire opportunity to wow someone before you ever get a chance to talk to them. I'm hesitant to ask this, but I have a feeling the answer is going to be yes, is that who in here has looked me up before this talk? They want to know, who is this Shaily woman? What is her deal? Maybe you weren't sure if you want to know. Carrie looked at it, right? U Chicago, I'm sure, looked at me up before they ever told me that they were looking at me for anything. That's a real thing, is that there's way too much content online about me that will tell you more than you ever needed to know, but you'll know exactly what my deal is before you ever talk to me, before you ever sit through any of my workshops. So I know that some of you probably did that. Something that you may have seen, if you did look me up, is maybe you saw my LinkedIn. My LinkedIn has a crazy bio with a lot of descriptions. You can learn all sorts of crazy facts about me, and I'll even show you a little screen share. Oops, let's see, share. You may have seen my crazy LinkedIn profile. I've got pictures of me doing workshops. Maybe you already know I do workshops. I got an About Me section where I talk about being Persian Moroccan, loving icebreakers, loving TEDx talks, bubble tea, sequins. You've just learned more about me than more people will ever learn, right? But it makes it super easy to figure out who you are. Maybe you've seen my LinkedIn posts. I've got some traction on some of the posts from over the years, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 views on stuff. You may have seen that and thought, okay, maybe she knows what's up, right? You're going to look to see what my deal is. So if you did, I hope this whole presentation is going to be like, oh, okay, I see. So I'm Shaily, and I really want to help you get more out of the relationships you have and really help you show yourself off online. Everything I'm going to be talking about today is a little bit of a social media angle, and it's more broadly. There's a ton I could talk about with LinkedIn and other platforms, but what I am talking about is more how you should think about your own presenting yourself online. That could be applied to platforms of today and the platforms of the future. It's a mindset around how you should think about your social media platforms. Because it's like feed a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime. I hope that I can feed you on a lifetime of social media and how to use them to build relationships. So like you just saw, like LinkedIn is my jam. I love LinkedIn. I've used it to get in front of people. I had someone in London reach out to me randomly, and I was like, how did that happen? Posted something on LinkedIn, they must have saw it. Same with other platforms. Lots of people see what I'm doing, and they potentially have the chance to reach out. It takes a lot of years to build up, but can be really handy. My business outside of what we're doing today is that I work with business owners, teaching them how to prioritize their social media efforts. I've worked with automotive schools. I've worked with accountants. I've worked with real estate agents. I have a celebrity caterer that did, what is it, Chance the Rapper's dinner of some sort. I've worked with a big variety of people. And it's been a lot of fun to really help them feel good about showing themselves off online. And that's what I want to help you all do today. So the big three things that we're going to hit on today is how to leverage your story and why you care about your superpower so that you can build connections with the people you want to serve. The second thing is how to get a hold of people you don't know on social media and make them think you're awesome, and some online networking tips to go with it. This could potentially be future employers as well. And how to use gratitude to help wow these people so that they want to do nice things for you. And the last thing I want to do, and I want you to think about this now, because this might be you, if you want some feedback on maybe a LinkedIn profile or some other social media pages you have, think about it now, but I'm going to give a chance for a few of you to get some feedback live on this call. It's a free opportunity to get some knowledge and insight on your own presenting of yourself. So that's going to be the last thing. And I know I could probably talk for 10 hours on this subject. I have so many things to talk about. I'll talk about some of it here, some of it in the upcoming course that's coming up in August. And some of it you can find on all over the web. But I only got a little bit of time here, so I'm trying to go really specific. If you have any questions on some other social media things, put them in the chat and we'll see if we can get to them at the end. If you have some social media tips or networking tips or career tips that you want to share with the group, there's so many people in here who have a world of different experiences that might be able to help each other. So if you have an idea, a thought, a comment, a question, the chat is yours. Just like Carrie said, it is there for you to put stuff in, and I will try to fuse in some answers as we go along, because there's so much collective wisdom in the room. Also, I want to ask this question just to make sure that you know how to play with this chat. I love the chat. I want to ask this question, and answer as honestly as you want. Write in the chat, how do you feel about your own, let's say, social media and how you present yourself online? 1 being like, oh, I feel totally terrible. I'm awful. I'm the worst. To 10 being, I'm a rock star. I want to teach this workshop. I'm the best. How do you feel about it? So anywhere between 1 and 10, I would love to see it in the chat. Chime in. Yes. I have some 1s and 2s. Oh my gosh. Well, I hope you can move up a little bit today. 3s. Oh, Carrie got a 3. Oh my gosh. Awesome. So the chat is there for you. Oh, we have some 7 or 8. So Shannon, if you have some tips, or Katie, you have some tips, definitely. I see Tessa also is at 8 as well. So we have a very big range in here. Awesome. I love that. Very cool. Thanks for sharing, everybody. Cool. So yes, the chat is there. So the first thing we're going to talk about is how to leverage your story. So if you have some piece of paper, or maybe you have a Google document open, something to write on, that would be awesome. No pressure if you don't. I'm going to share a little bit about my story, because you still don't know me that well yet. I want to share a little bit of my story. And as you hear my story, I want you to some jot ideas of maybe part of your story that may have sparked for you as you heard mine. And then I'll tell you a little bit more after. So with that, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how I got into this crazy social media world. So back when I was 14, I, like many people, was on MySpace. If you were on MySpace, let me know in the chat. I loved MySpace. Carrie was like, yup, I loved it. It was where I found my online community of people who are nerds like me, who played online versions of Big Brother and Survivor. Those are TV reality competition shows. Carrie, you're laughing. Oh my gosh. If there's any Big Brother Survivor fans, do not tell me what happened on Survivor. I am behind. But if you're a fan of those shows, I love finding you in the world. I love those. And we had our own little online community, but we had no online hub. So I thought to myself, why don't I make something that is going to hold all of our people together? Thus, Shaily's Resort was born. I made this group, and I was like the community leader, posting questions and engaging people and all sorts of stuff. And people loved it. And they connected with each other better because of me. I didn't think much of it because I was like 15, 16. I was trying to become a YouTube star. It was a whole different time and place. Went to Indiana University, graduated, and I was applying for my first paid social media job at C3 Communications. If you've heard of them, they're awesome, do a lot of good for nonprofits. And on the application, they wrote down, have you ever managed online communities before? And it hit me that what I was doing on MySpace was early social media skills long before social media was really a thing, because I was managing an online community. And that got me my first paid social media job. I started doing work with nonprofits, and it was fun. Fast forward, I was at a business networking event, and this lady who had seen me talk about doing social media for people comes up to me and she's like, you know, Shaily, I don't know if I could hire you to do my social media, but could you sit down and teach me? And I was like, wait a second. I studied education at Indiana University. I'm a teacher. And I love social media. Maybe this is my perfect opportunity. And I sat down with her and I taught her social media. And from then on, for the last 2 years, I've been focused on empowering people to show themselves off and what makes them wonderful on social media. And that's how I got into doing what I am doing today. So if hopefully you got some ideas down from your own story of how you got jazzed about doing what you're awesome at. I'm going to ask you, did you relate to any aspects of my stories? I know we had some MySpacers in the house. We had people who are former interns who've been through those things. Uh, maybe you connected to some other cool nuggets about who I am, my favorite shows or whatnot. Oftentimes we hear that professional relationships can often start with personal connections. I'm going to show you this slide, and this is the epitome of all of this. Let's see. Can I share screen again? Share. This is the slide that says it all. Who you see what's happening here? There's people playing golf. It's usually a bunch of dudes. Unfortunately, it's a lot of dudes usually, but what are you gonna do? This is the sad reality of today. But there's a lot of dudes playing golf. Are they just playing golf? They're doing something else. A lot of people would say networking. They are networking. They are connecting. They are potentially opening up business deals on the golf course. They might be playing a fun game, but maybe this guy works at a big company and this guy's trying to make a sale or who knows what, right? You never know what's happening, but if you're golf buddies, the chances of you becoming business buddies goes through the roof. So I always share a little bit of personal because you never know where those connections come from. Let's see. I'm going to stop share. Awesome. Oh yeah, networking. So Joshua, I love it. You said networking. Exactly. They're doing a lot of the same things. And oftentimes that's why the membership fees are so expensive for these golf clubs. I do not have one. That is not where I'm at in life. The other one I'll say too is I was on a phone call with the owner of Koval. And she was telling us about how she takes her kids everywhere and they're always near her for every business phone call and beyond. And one of the kids was making some noise while she was talking to some guy on the phone, and the guy heard, and she said, "Hey, excuse me while I take care of my kids." The fact that this guy also had kids was a bonding point. He said, "Oh yeah, I have kids. I understand." And it helps solidify their personal relationship too. Does anybody here have kids? You can connect on that in the chat if you want. It was a good icebreaker. So sharing stories gives people more ways to vet you for how you got to where you are. Yes, Joshua said yes on the kids. Awesome. It helps them vet who you are. It's a lot easier to figure out what my deal is if you've heard my story. Another example that I have is a freelancer that I used, and I'll tell you where you're going to use these stories in a little bit. A freelancer that I used switched careers. I know there might be some career switchers in the house, and I know it's not an easy thing to do. She went from being a teacher to being a museum educator and running a bunch of stuff at a museum to then being a UX designer making websites for people. And she didn't know how all of those things connected. In her mind, she was starting brand new from being a UX designer. But what she didn't realize she had is that her big thing in her world was about experiences, is that being a teacher allowed her to give experiences to a classroom of 10 or 20 students. Being in a museum allowed her to provide educational experiences for maybe 100 people. But doing websites gives her the opportunity to create experiences for thousands. And her love of experiences came from her childhood, her family taking her on trips all over the world, experiencing different cultures and backgrounds. And that is the special sauce that doesn't just make her UX designer, because there's 1,000 UX designers out there in the world to choose from. That makes her someone who deeply, deeply understands what it's like to make experiences for people. These are the stories that take you from just another person that does whatever you do to someone special. I hope that if you want to follow Margaret on social media, she's very cool. She's utilized some of these pieces on her website and on her LinkedIn, and I think it's helped her open some doors. And I've also said those on all my reference calls for the people that want to hire her. I've told them the same story. It's one of my signatures with clients is that I'm always being a little bit more personal than I think most people ever imagined they could be. The other one that I say is I said I was Moroccan Iranian is when I was applying for a position or a contract a few years ago, the first thing the hiring person said when I got on the phone was like, "Oh, I saw you were Persian. My boyfriend in high school was Persian. I know all about you." And I was like, great, what a hilarious icebreaker. She was nervous. I was definitely nervous. And that opened up the door to a lot of conversations. This could be something as simple as cooking, travel, dancing, playing piano. There's so many things you can do there. I want to give you another example, and this one's from Instagram. This is something that I like. So if you have an Instagram, personal or professional, this is something easy that you can do. This is one of my clients. She's an interior designer. Her name is Amanda. She's very cool. Instead of writing, I'm just an interior designer, where there's a million to choose from, she wrote that she's a work-life balance dreamer, and part of her design work is incorporating work-life balance into whatever she designs. That's super specific and interesting, and I could really imagine it. She loves Chicago, so people know where she's at. And then she wrote Cavi Dog Mom, who's got dogs in the house. I imagine that she's going to be so much better at designing for a dog owner than anybody else. And that's a point of conversation for anybody that might want to hire her. So she's got, all these cute pictures, and she's also giving you a taste of what it's like to work with her. This is like, I think it's like a food place she's working on. She's actually showing what the process looks like. So if you want to ever hire her, they know what it's like to work with you. And for a career person, this might be a story about a time that you succeeded at your job. There's another one I saw where here she's actually showing you how she's deciding on the paints. Is that at this point, you probably have a good sense of what she's like to work with, is that you see her getting down and dirty on this project. So that's a little bit of another example here for you. The other one in terms of your story and really sharing it is an automotive school that I worked with. And these are a little bit more business oriented, but totally relates to your story and your career. This is, let's see, share screen. So this is Master Automotive Training. They're in California. They put hands-on learning, which maybe some of their competitors don't do as much hands-on learning. Satisfaction guaranteed. Cool. Good technician is always learning. That's a nice thing. You go to their About Us section. Actually, is it their About Us? Yep, this is their About Us section. He didn't have this before we talked. I said, hey, you need pictures of who's teaching. So he put 3 beautiful smiling faces of the people that teach at his program. This is Oscar. He's super cool dude. So if you want to go to California and learn cars, he's awesome. And then I told him, you need to put personal details about these people. So here's Cynthia. And if you look at the end of every one of these bios, it tells them a little about their career. It says outside of work, she loves to binge watch shows on Netflix. I think there's quite a few people in here who probably also do the exact same thing. Now you can talk to her about shows. You have a lot more ways to start a conversation with her. She likes drawing and experimenting with makeup. So she's also creative. How cool is that? This guy likes to play basketball. He's got a terrier, it looks like. I don't know what some of these things mean. Listen to music, try new restaurants. Like, that's a great starting point if you ever want to work with him. And then the smiling Oscar, he put in that he's a cyclist as well and a private pilot. You could talk to Oscar for hours about being a private pilot. Those people love to talk about what they do. So these are little ways that you can do this. I do this crazily on my profile. I can show you one of my other clients. Actually, I want to show you her. This is her profile. This is one I did with her. She's got a nice picture of her face, always a good thing. She talks about retirement, but I put her story in here too. She's helping people live good lives when they're in their 60s and 70s. And she talks about how she took care of her ailing mother. That's something that's really deep and personal that her people might connect with. She's a public school educator. There's a lot of examples here. She likes jazz, piano. There's a lot of stuff that you can connect with her on that isn't just generic. And I'm going to show you an example of the opposite of this in a second. Let's see. Pause share. Cool. So I hope you got some ideas. So there's some personal nuggets in here that you want to share with the group. I've shared quite a few. I don't know if there's something random, Carrie, that you can share with the group about yourself. There's always so much. But yeah, these stories paint a real picture of what you're like to other people. Oh, okay, so here's the real kicker here. I love this. I saw a tweet the other day from 2 people that I love in the HR recruiting space. This is what I see so much of on LinkedIn and other social media platforms. People are boring. People are not interesting. I can't imagine you. So here's this example. You will be dynamic and inspiring. You'll be a dynamic and inspiring leader who has strong background and desire and relationship building skills with both external and clients and internal partners. What does that even mean? I don't know. And then Adam Karpiak, who's amazing. You should follow him for job tips. This is lacking synergy. So when corporate lingo gets to become too much, I have no idea what this person is saying about themselves. No clue. And that's why Katrina's kind of making fun of it. And this is like 95% of what I see on the internet. You are so much more interesting than this. So keep that in mind. You don't want to be one of those that's just resume. So when you have these stories, Put a blurb of this on your LinkedIn profile. If you maybe have a website or a portfolio, put a blurb in there. It's going to make people have a really good sense of what you're like. And that's absolutely huge. What was the other big thing I could say is that you might not get the interview somewhere, but they might look up your profile, and that can give them a really good sense of who you are. I want you to be the dream candidate for whoever is hiring you. So if you're good at accounting, tell me about the sweet spot that you have in accounting. Tell me how you saved a customer who was about to like explode with accounting problems. Tell me about that story without breaking any laws or confidentiality. Like, give me that experience, because you might not get a chance to actually sell yourself. Put it on the platform, and it's going to make it so much easier to talk to people. Now, when people want to hire me, they have a very good sense of what I'm like before we get on the phone. And that sometimes they'll give me a lot more chances now. So if you have thoughts, questions, please chime in. The other thing I want to say is that how can doing all of this help you get in touch with cool people? First off, if you're on LinkedIn and you have a really killer profile, whenever you add someone new, it forces them to like basically look at your profile. So if you have really good information on there, they now have gotten to know you better without ever emailing you or nothing. So that's going to be huge. The other thing I want to say is, let's say there's a specific company you want to get hired at. Actually, let me see. What am I going to say? Oh, I have a question in the chat. I don't know if you want me to say who it's coming from. Where does one start to re-image? Can you elaborate more? Because I want to definitely answer your question. It sounds like a juicy question. Go for it. Jill, so let's see. I'm looking for a response. Okay. So where do you start with a boring LinkedIn? So with LinkedIn, I would say this. If you have a LinkedIn, that's one checkpoint. The second thing is LinkedIn will tell you when your profile isn't totally filled out. Listen to what they tell you to do. That's the second part. I would say this, however often you're checking it now, I would double that. So let's say you check it once a month, maybe check it, make sure you check it every 2 weeks. And every time you check it, add like 1 or 2 things that are interesting to it. That's how I did it like 10 years ago. I would check it like every 3 or 4 months, and then I would check it every 3 months, and then I check it every 2 months. And now I'm checking it every 5 minutes, which is not always recommended because I'm a little addicted to it, but that's my own problem. But the more you check it, the more you can add details, the more you can add your skills, the better. So if you want me to look at your LinkedIn, I can show you some of the spaces that you can fill out to make you look awesome. Let's see. What was I also going to tell you? So so how you can get in touch with cool people, you can use social media. So there's 2 things I want to angle here. Is that, let's say there's somebody that is an author or a TED speaker or somebody cool that you admire. They might have like a bajillion followers on Instagram, but maybe no followers on Twitter. It's a lot easier to get a hold of them on Twitter than it is on, let's say, Instagram. And it's a lot more fun to send a Twitter message than it is like a boring email where it's going to get buried somewhere. So if you're the one nice person that sends them a nice tweet, you'd be surprised you're going to get a response and a reaction. And you'd be surprised how many people told me that positive gratitude towards them has made their day. So that's something to think about. I actually did this with Morgan Spurlock. Have anyone seen the movie Super Size Me 10 years ago? He's a documentarian guy. He's hilarious and he's awesome. And he had like just made a LinkedIn, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I said hi to him, and he responded, and I may have freaked out a bit. So that also happened. I tweeted something at K-Swiss, and the president of K-Swiss liked my tweet. And then I started talking to the president of K-Swiss. I'm like, cool. Like, I don't know how that happened. That's awesome. That's one way of getting in touch with cool people. I am very careful about not really asking them for too much. I usually try to use it as a relationship builder. But if you do want to ask these people for like advice or tips or introductions to jobs or who knows what, always be showing gratitude, appreciate their knowledge and their time when you do so, and ask them permission to be able to ask them for support. But love on those people. The more you love on them, the better. They don't always have a ton of followers, so it's an easy way to build a relationship. The other thing to do is I'm going to talk about how companies themselves pay people like me to manage their social media accounts. So I'm going to show you something you may have seen. Let's see, share screen. Anyone eat at Wendy's? Has anyone seen Wendy's on Twitter? Because Wendy's on Twitter is hilarious. Oh, can you see my whole screen here? So this is a Wendy's tweet. So I guess Burger King was posted some sort of tweet, and Wendy's said, as a way of firing back, edible food, because I guess Burger King is not edible. They do really funny, goofy things. Here's another one. We usually prefer the original to a knockoff, but hey, you do you. Just because you were the first doesn't mean you're the best. That came from a competitor. Then Wendy's replied, tell us the fourth person to walk on the moon without Googling it. And then it said, LOL, Hardee's blocked us. Like, there's people that are get paid to respond to you on Twitter. Here's another one. BK for the win. What did they win? A participation trophy. Something really goofy, right? So Wendy's, I'm at In-N-Out. What should I get? And Wendy said, out. So Wendy's is a big troll right here, basically, on social media. The point is with this is that Wendy's has gotten fire tweets. Yes, Shannon, they are fire tweets. Is that there are people like me who sit behind accounts and respond to stuff. I did this for a seafood restaurant last year for like 8 months, just responding to people and being goofy and having fun. That these companies can afford someone like me to do that. But oftentimes we're sitting there and we want people to like our stuff. We want people to reply, but sometimes we're lonely and we're waiting for a little bit of attention. So if you're that one really nice person that comments on our page and on our Twitter, there's a good chance that somebody like me will see it. And we tend to be the most social people at the company because we have to showcase all different things that are going on internally, and we tend to know different people at different departments. So if you're super nice to us on social media, we might be able to introduce you to someone who could open a door for you for a job opportunity. So keep that in mind. There's the lonely social media manager is a real thing, and utilize it. So yes, that's a big one. Let's see. Am I not sharing screen? Am I? No. So yes, we talked about gratitude. You want to love on the people who have real cool reach, build relationships with them. Oh, the other thing you can do is maybe there was a past employer that you really liked working with that maybe you want them to write a recommendation on LinkedIn. Maybe you write one for them first. It's a great way to say, hey, I think you're awesome. I'm going to write something nice about you. I wrote one for a past employer recently, and he was actually looking for a job. So it actually meant a lot to him that I did it for him. And you never know when those connections can open up doors in the future. So if there's somebody you want to impress, write how awesome they are on their LinkedIn bio. It'll definitely make their day. And it's something that they never had to ask for. So you can do that. You can send them an article you think they're going to appreciate. If you want them to be excited about you, maybe write a positive business review to a business you might want to work with if you've used their services. If you have a professor you want to impress, rate my professor. I think, is that a thing? Rate my professor? Is that still going? Right? If I'm your teacher and you write that review, favorite student, done, easy peasy. It's whenever you say nice things to people, it's the best. I don't know, Carrie, if you know this. Do you know what everyone's favorite subject is? Themselves. You get people talking about themselves. You send them compliments. It's a great way to build relationships. So it's a huge one there too. So I gave you a few nuggets here. We still have a good chunk of time where you can share some of your own tips. We have some questions in the chat. And you can get some feedback on your own social media. I can answer more specific LinkedIn questions, more specific job questions, anything you want to know. There's lots of goodies. I have some other resources too that I can share. And then I'm going to close at the end with a little bit of a story. So, and you're going to want to hear that. It's going to be a cute story about how my dad is a social media influencer. I know, weird, right? Carrie's like, what? Yeah, he's like in his 60s. It's so random. But I'll tell you that story at the end. So yeah, I see some questions in the chat. Okay, so we have somebody who wants to get a profile review. Ooh, fundraising. You're in fundraising. Okay, I'm going to share your screen so everyone's going to see it. They're going to know what you do.
Before we share,
Yeah.
is it okay if we continue recording for the private information?
So
you can feel free to chat Shaily. Otherwise, I can pause the recording.
Cool. So if you want to say no to the recording,
tell me now.
Put in the chat. Yes, there you go. Oh, here we go. I found your profile, Jill. There we go.
Okay, we'll continue.
Let's see. I'm going to share, and I can give you a lot of LinkedIn tips here for everybody. Where is
Hi. You know what? I'd rather not be in the recording.
Cool.
Oh, sure. We'll pause it.
That's all right. Thank you, though.
Of course.
Awesome. Thank you for that reminder. Oh, this is a nice quote. The power of social media is when it's built on real activity. Every one of the reasons I have all that traction on LinkedIn is because everybody that I add on there as best as I can, I try to have a relationship with. And those are the people that tend to like and comment on my stuff. So relationships are everything. Okay. So I told you I was going to tell you about my dad, who's a social media influencer, and he's on this platform. Does anybody know what this platform is? Does anybody use it? Carrie doesn't know it. Somebody in the chat, I'm sure, will know. It's a very special platform, and I put a little crown on it because I think he's the king of this app. It's WhatsApp. I don't know who uses WhatsApp. I use it. My dad is convinced that everybody in the world uses WhatsApp because all of his buddies use it. A lot of I'm a kid of an immigrant, right? So there's a lot of immigrant communities that live for WhatsApp because you can chat with people all over the world. What I'm going to tell you about my dad is not to become an influencer on WhatsApp like him, but his story about how he built what he built. So my dad is a jeweler. I told you he buys and sells estate jewelry. He's been in business for like 40 years. He pays big money for your diamonds or whatever. He's got a shtick. It's cute. And he's been in business for a long time. And through his business, he's made a lot of friends and a lot of relationships with a lot of people. And that's how he sustained all these years. So what he decided to do is he put all of his best business buddies in a chat room where they can now buy and sell jewelry from each other. So I'm talking like you can buy a $5,000 bracelet from just a picture. That's terrifying to me and maybe to many of you. How does that even happen? And how do you even trust that you're going to get paid and that the diamonds are going to get to you? It's a crazy thing. But people are doing this every day. They're buying and selling from people all over the world. And now he's opened up his network to each other. And why that works and why people aren't scared to sell jewelry like that is because every person in that chat room was built and vetted with trust. That he had to have a good relationship with them to know that they're not going to screw someone over in there. And over 5 years, maybe even 6 years now, he is posting jokes in there. He's moderating it. He's running auctions. He has now become a community connector, and he is an influencer to these 250 some jewelers around the world. He even throws parties, like they have jewelry shows in Vegas every year, which is supposed to happen right now, unfortunately, Corona. But he throws parties for them too. And so everybody looks at him as, oh my gosh, this guy has opened up doors. There was a story about him going to a wedding in New York, and some young guy comes up to him and like asks to kiss his hand because my dad put him in this chat room, and it's literally opened up doors for him in his career. And it's opened up so much opportunity for people that they never had before. And there's plenty of people who can create WhatsApp chat rooms. That's not the hard part. It's that the relationships inside of it are what really made all the difference. So fast forward last year, around this time was a 5-year anniversary. And this is what it looked like, where these jewelers came from everywhere to buy and sell from each other. And my dad made t-shirts, Fred's Trading Group, with a WhatsApp logo on it. It's adorable. And my stepmother makes a joke that when she got married, my dad, she didn't know that she was not only marrying my dad, but she was marrying his cell phone, because this is all he does all day. So this is part of what social media is about, is that you are making relationships with people, and your social media is how you do that. So before I leave you on my favorite social media quote that I feel like I wrote, but I didn't, I want you to do one more thing. There's so many people in this room. I know we didn't get to hear from everybody today, but I want you all to hear a little something from everybody in this room. So I'm going to invite you to do something in the chat. If you can write one describing word to the group about how you're feeling right now, I would love it. So are you excited, nervous, inspired, ideas, developing ideas? What do you want to share? Put one word to describe how you feel. I would love to see some thoughts. I'm definitely feeling some gratitude that you all chose to spend your time here today with University of Chicago and are learning about the programs that they have here and beyond. So if you write something in the chat, awesome. Very cool. And with that, I'm going to leave you on one last social media quote. So we end on time here. That social media is about the people, not about your business or maybe your career or about you. Provide for the people, and the people will provide for you. Yep, and I will share my contact details too. Oops. Thanks for having me, Carrie.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Shaily, for your time. This was great, and I will follow up with everybody tomorrow as well with a copy of the recording.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're welcome, everybody from the chat. Oh, I'm so glad. I saw chock full. I see excited, nervous. It's okay to be nervous. And I see people, oh, they all said WhatsApp. Awesome. Very cool. I'm so glad. Thank you for everybody for chiming in. And yes, we'll see you at the end of the summer if you're taking the program.
Absolutely. And if you have any questions for those attending, if you have any questions about Shaily or the marketing courses we offer, feel free to email me as well.
Sweet.
All right.
Awesome. I love
Okay.
that.
Well, I'll close out. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Shaily.
Bye.